Hey guys, I am Game Advisor and welcome to another Icarus update video. Today we'll be covering week 42, which is the mounts update, which is one I know you're all very excited for, so let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Now, let me just make sure you guys know that we are going to be making a full mount tutorial / guide video, which should be coming out in the next few days. So do keep an eye out for that if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, let's talk about how you actually are going to tame your mount. Well, this is going to be done by simply just exploring, and yes, you can do this in your outpost if you're on the really big map one. If you're doing one of the tiny maps, you will not be able to. But if you are doing that big map, you should be able to find these mounts there, which is where we personally found ours. You can get a total of 2 different mounts on top of that. You can get a buffalo and you can get a moa. To tame them, you're going to have to find their adult versions, at which point there should be a juvenile version nearby. And let me point out that these juvenile versions, even though they're found with their mother or their parents or whatever, it does mean that you're going to have to actually kill them, and be careful because these mounts look very, very similar to their parental counterparts. After you've taken the leisurely duties of exterminating their current parents, you'll then be able to walk up to that mount and hit F on it, at which point it will then start to follow you. You can then go ahead and take it back to your base or wherever you've decided to set up taming. There is some little tricks you can do, but either way, it's really just, hey, go ahead and bring it back to your base, put a little feeding trough down, and build some other things, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, the moa is specifically designed to be significantly faster than the buffalo. I would say it's about 30 to 40% faster, and it regenerates its stamina quicker, even though it has a smaller total stamina bar. To give you an idea of the different speeds, let's just say that when you're running next to each other, there is a noticeable difference. Somebody with a lot of move speed items and skills as well will be able to run about as fast as a buffalo can sprint, whereas the moa will still outpace you no matter what skills or what talents or items you're carrying, as it is just that fast when it's sprinting. The idea here is that the moa is supposed to be your transportation vehicle. If you want to go long distances, this is the mount you're going to want to take because it's going to get you there a lot faster, whereas the buffalo is supposed to be more of a sort of tank / cargo carrier. By default, the buffalo mount has 6 inventory slots and the moa only has 2. You can create a special saddle for your buffalo though to give it more slots. However, both of these can only carry 100 kilograms, which is a problem in my eyes, considering the buffalo is supposed to be, hey, I can carry all the stuff you could possibly want mount, and that's kind of the idea behind it. To me, having it only be able to carry 100 kilograms, which is the exact same total weight as the moa, seems pretty silly. Yes, it can move while it's over encumbered, but it's very slow. So personally, I think this is just a total oversight by the devs that they really need to take a look at. Maybe make it so that the buffalo mount will actually go ahead and carry more weight so that it makes it useful by maybe the extra saddle doing that, because there's an advanced saddle that costs a lot more materials for it. At the end of the day, though, you are going to have to craft some stuff to actually tame these. In total, you're going to need 4 different items. That's going to be your water trough, a feeding trough, a bed, and a saddle. If you don't have all 4 of those, you cannot tame these animals. Technically, you could tame it without the saddle, but again, I wouldn't recommend it. And I think technically you can tame it without the bed, but again, I wouldn't recommend it. If you aren't happy, they're not well fed, they will either die if they're not fed or take significantly longer to tame if they're tired. So again, you're going to really want to get all 4 of these. They're all in tier 2. Now there is a tier 3 item, which is the advanced buffalo saddle thing. And this just, again, all it does is give you extra carry slots, not more weight, just more slots. Personally, I do think players that are starting out in the game will most likely want to tame these, especially the moa, because there's a lot of very long travel distances in those early missions. So having a moa available to you could reduce that runtime by quite a bit for players. So I do think that's actually going to be useful for them. However, for players at the end game who really aren't traveling that far that often or already have all these move speed items and gear, it's really just not going to be worth it for you. By the time you just traveled there and traveled back, you would have just now tamed your moa. So unless you just really like riding them or you want to use them to get away from other animals that are chasing you, there's really no point in actually having it if you have a lot of move speed items already, at least not for traveling purposes. Now, to that point, I do want to point out that the devs do talk about what they want to do with these mounts in future content. And basically what these devs are saying here is, hey, we want to make it so mounts can persist, which would be absolutely huge to be able to just bring your mount straight on in with you to your mission. That would be so useful. They would be great in so many ways. I'd have no complaints. I think the MOA would be perfectly fine right now as is if you could at least bring it into a mission already tamed. And they want to add mount levels, a talent tree, as well as being able to buff them in different ways with different foods. Now the foods part seems like it's mostly already set up. They really just need to do some coding behind it, because all you really would have to do is make it so, hey, they can get the berry buff, they get some extra stamina and stuff, you know, same thing that we get. Not that complex. However, the mount persistence seems like it's going to be a bit more complicated, as well as the talent tree and level system. I don't think levels would be too hard, they just have to make sure it's balanced. Now, something else they mentioned is the fact that they do have a new open world mode, which they've been working on. This new open world mode to me sounds like a persistent world, and to me that is huge. Again, I don't want another outpost. If it's just an outpost, it's not fun, but a persistent world where we can just go do missions without having to rebuild everything every time, and maybe get XP or credits without having to leave, maybe be able to even order in items instead of leaving that planet every single time, would be huge. I know a lot of players' complaints so far about this game have simply been the fact that you have to restart every time you do a new mission, and I am with you. I think it is not fun to have to do that for many players. I think it was a good idea, but it just doesn't work out when you actually play it as much as it would on paper. So again, I really, really hope this new open world mode they're talking about is not just another outpost for sticks or something. If that's what it is, no one's going to care. Going to be honest with you, very few players will care. I doubt you'll see any old players return to the game. And so for me, again, I really hope this is a persistent world where we can do missions or something within it. That way we don't have to leave. I don't care how they go about that. I just think it would be much better than having this situation we're in now, where people are dropping in, building all this stuff, and then losing it and not being able to use it again. Another option I think they could do that would work really well is to simply make it so you could do, say, 4 or 5 missions or a chain of missions that are increasing in difficulty, so that you actually have a reason to use that endgame stuff you grinded up to throughout doing all those missions. If I'm in a mission for, say, 20 hours because there's 10 sub-missions I can do within it, I'm going to be much more likely to care about this stuff. I think longer missions could be a huge solution to their problem. When I say longer, I mean a lot longer. Not, hey, an extra hour or two, just go run across the map. I'm talking, hey, go do this mission, you know, maybe it's easy, just do something simple. Then I want you to gather me these resources. Then I want you to go defeat this boss. All right, now I want you to defeat this boss and this boss at the same time. You know, in that situation, players are going to be way more likely to actually want to grind up. But either way, I'm kind of ranting at this point. The point here is the mounts are cool. I don't think people will use them that much until they have this new persistent world system they're talking about, or some way to bring them out in with you, or tame it quicker maybe with some kind of exotic you bring in or something like that. Again, there's a lot of options here. These are just my personal opinions on it. Either way though, we do plan on putting out a mount guide video this week, so do subscribe if that's something you're interested in and want to check out. We're going to go in depth on how each mount works, what they're good at, what they're bad at, how you find them, where you find them, all that good stuff. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I want to give a big shout out to all of our channel members, especially our platinum and above members, which include Caustic FPV and Jim Phillips. If you guys want to be a member and you want to help support the channel, you can do so for less than the price of a cheeseburger these days. It's only 99 cents. If you don't, that's totally fine. I'm just grateful you're here watching this video. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time.